Come with us to Dry Tortugas National Park. It's located 70 miles west of Key West on a small 7-acre island, just north of Havana, Cuba, right in the Gulf Stream. The only way to get here is by ferry and seaplanes. So we took the ferry. We loaded up as much stuff as we could because we knew we were here for 3 nights and 4 days. So we had to get as much water, supplies, food, and all that for us for that time. They literally just drop you off on the beach with your tent and then leave. The fort itself is enormous. Even right now, we're about 70 feet off the ocean level. The inside of the fort is all built out of bricks from Maine and granite from New Hampshire, so it was shipped down. This is the drawbridge that was used back in the day because it was a fort for defense, because we had to control the Gulf Stream channel between Cuba and the U.S. This is the moat wall that protects the structure from erosion from the waves. Definitely super fun. I mean, we had so much fun on this trip. The water was crystal clear. And then I decided to take the kayak over to Loggerhead. Here we are on our way over to the lighthouse, Loggerhead Lighthouse. Got a brisk wind from the north, which is pushing me off to my left substantially, making it about triple as hard to get here. But we're almost there. To show you where I came from, we'll spin around. Middle of the ocean, Gulf of Mexico. That's Fort Jefferson right there. That's 70 miles west of Key West, between Cuba and the U.S. But we're almost to our destination. This was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I was not anticipating the current that was constantly pulling me from the right to the left. Plus we had a wind, plus there was light chop. And I've never kayaked before, so I still can't even believe I made this. My battery died in the GoPro at this point, so you guys only get pictures for the rest of the island. But this is Loggerhead Lighthouse. And I was the only one on the whole island, and it looks like nobody was there for like a month before me. So I pulled it up on the shore. I walked around a little bit, but at this point it was about 3 p.m. and my radio wasn't working, so I wasn't able to contact the Coast Guard on the other end. So Ashley and everybody there was super worried about me, but I did make it back. It took me about 3.5 hours back to the main quay where we are now. This was a giant cannon that was just refurbished, and they placed it back on top of the fort to its original standing in the 1850s when it was built. It was just so cool. I mean, you could wander this thing for a whole week. This was one of the largest masonry forts ever built in the United States, and it's still standing today, which is pretty cool. It's a 2-hour ferry ride over, so we planned to do that just because we had so much supplies with us. And our tent was literally like 50 feet off the water, so at night the darkness was just the most your mind can register. That's how much light there was. The stars were amazing. And there's no electricity, there's no water on the island, so you literally have to bring everything. So I brought a marine radio, tools, the tent, battery packs for the cameras. I had to bring the kayak, power for the camera, and we brought some biodegradable soap that we ended up using to take showers and stuff in the ocean itself. So this is inside the moat wall, looking out at where there normally would be cannons on how they would protect the fort from back in the day. It's definitely a remote island. It's only as big as the farm itself. Called Dry Tortugas National Park. You take the Yankee Freedom Ferry to get over there. This is us snorkeling and diving, and if you've ever been to like a fish store and you see all the fish in the tanks, every single fish is native to where we are right now. So it's really cool to see this stuff up close. And I heard something when we were under the water, and I poked my head up, and there was the seaplane leaving for the day. So once this plane and the ferry leaves, you guys are just on the island by yourself, which was really cool to me. So the weather here was just hot. During the days was in the mid 90s, and nighttime temperatures only went down to about 75 or 80, but the humidity was almost 100% and almost unbearable. But definitely worth it because the water temperature was about 75 to 78. So you would just jump in if you were ever hot. But being in full sun, full humidity, and the hottest temperature you've ever been in was definitely a challenge. But the fish that we saw here were so cool. I mean, you could almost grab them. So the water itself was just so clear. I mean, you could see maybe 50, 75 feet ahead of you, and there's a manta ray in the distance there if you can see it. This was the beach that we stayed on, so our tent was just off to our left here. So it's just so cool to be at the water at night. This alligator would live in the moat usually, but sometimes he would go between here and Loggerhead. So I was freaking out in the kayak, thinking I was going to see him, but I didn't. There's the car coming in with all of our water for the trip. That's our tent. That's where we stayed, and definitely a good time. And it's one of the most remote national parks in the United States. But bringing the kayak was definitely worth the trip. And if you ever want to go, it's Dry Tortugas National Park. You go down to Key West and you take a seaplane or a ferry over. And it was minimal cost. I mean, I think the ferry itself was like $30 and per night was I think $25. So it's not big money, but for the amount of fun that you have, it was definitely worth it.